1570 AM and W298BX 107.5 FM, Winterville, North Carolina. We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring to you breaking news information, awareness, and education exclusively here on Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM, 1570 AM. Thank you for listening. Yes, thank you so much for listening to us on today, bringing you this breaking news, informative information to the community. This is Awesome Radio 1075, 1570 AM, WECU. My name is Akila. We have in the studio with me Vernon Garrison. We also have with us Minerva Freeman and Diane Taylor. This special informative program is about Project 2025. What is Project 2025? What is the big deal about Project 2025? And what is the agenda on Project 2025? And to me, the better people to answer those questions, Diane Taylor and Minerva Freeman, and Vernon Garrison may have some information. I have information as well, but I want to hear from the organizers of this special informative community meeting that will be taking place on August 29th at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church at 6 o'clock p.m. And the church is located on Hooker Road. So who would like to take the mic first and to tell us what is Project 2025 and the agenda?
So I'm going to let Diane take the lead for this.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Diane Taylor, and I have the pleasure of coming to you today. I know I wear lots of hats in the community, but today I come to you as the regional organizer for Red, Wine, and Blue. And Red, Wine, and Blue is a nonpartisan organization that's sole mission really is to empower communities and the women in those communities to talk about and mobilize around issues that are important to them. And I could not think of a bigger issue right now than this upcoming election and the things that are at stake. And there's so much at stake, which is why we wanted to talk about specifically Project 2025. So a lot of us have heard a little bit now the buzz about Project 2025. And I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but I will say that it is a 44-page document that I will say individuals have been using to implement due to some right-wing or extremism, that's a better word, an extremism type agenda. And so we really wanted an opportunity, Ms. Minerva actually reached out to me, and we wanted an opportunity to give the community a summary of what this is. How can we break it down, this big elephant, into chunks that we can digest and understand and still energize us enough where we have the education we need to make informed decisions when we go to the polls this fall.
And if I could, Akila, I would say, and I do appreciate Diane for saying yes when I asked her. You know, this document has been out a very long time. As you said earlier, 900 pages. So most people wouldn't have read it. But I really appreciate Taraji Henson. She mentioned it at the BET Award, and it just caught fire. People had a buzz about it. They went Googling and they found out and they started forming groups and so forth to find out what Project 2025 was about and how it would impact all of us. And it does impact us. So I am looking forward today to getting into some of that with you all so that the community will know what it's about. And today I'm representing NCNW. That's the National Council for Negro Women, Greenville Pitt County section, to talk about it. We did that with our social justice committee. We always want to bring correct information to the public. And so this was one. So again, I have to thank Diane and her organization for helping us get the word out. And again, if I can publicly thank Diane Taylor, Taylor Made, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Outstanding. So Taraji kind of sort of spilled the beans a little bit about Project 2025 then, huh?
Yeah.
And got everybody buzzing about it, wanting to know more about it and who is behind it and what are people saying about it and what exactly is in the 944-page document.
Yeah, so actually prior to the BET Awards, only 70% of voters, 70% of voters had not even heard of Project 2025. So Taraji did a great service by utilizing her platform to even put it on the lips and the minds and the hearts of all of us in the United States to kind of really pay attention to this manifesto as it has been labeled. So, you know, her saying that on a national stage really kind of lit a fire under people to go investigate, research, and really find out more about it. And the last thing I'll say about just this piece is that's why it's so important for us to use the platforms that we have, that we're given, because when whatever spaces we're in, if we are able to ignite ideas or educate our people so that they can find out for themselves, I think that's why we're here on the planet. So for me, she just did what we're all supposed to do, and that is to use whatever platform you have to make sure you're educating people.
And Akilah, if I could say,
I'm very proud of you ladies. Being a part of the media is our goal and purview to see things on the horizon and to report it. And as part of a breaking news movement as we can, I'd like to say, how does it feel to be reporting on an issue that's similar to a civil war, that's similar to the foundation of this country where the Europeans were colonizing and they were finding ways to subdue and oppress the indigenous people and to maintain that. And all throughout the years, up until now, I can say that this is a movement to solidify the capitalism, the imperialism, their stake on this continent, and it doesn't surprise me, but it's a beautiful thing to see that you guys are bringing out the information, this assertive movement to control the population. To me, I think they feel like it's justified. I don't know if they are going to change their MO based on everybody popularly bringing this to the populace. They probably will, but I read a little bit about it and I've seen some reporting on it. And so I'm interested in hearing your take on how we're to oppose this. Exposing it is great. How are we going to oppose this? And is the political agenda that you have to maybe vote against it, to expose it, is that the only weapon in the arsenal to change, to to combat this way of thinking here in the continental United States?
Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this whole conversation on today. What is the agenda of Project 2025?
Well, I would like to say first that an agenda of extremism is not new to us. It's the same playbook that they've always had, frankly. They may use different words, they may attack different policies, but it really is the same playbook. And what I mean by that is Project 2025, even though it's over 900 pages, is a souped up Willie Lynch letter, right? And so if you really think about simplifying it in terms of what this means for us, it's a Willie Lynch letter. It's giving them a playbook on how to dismantle not just African Americans, frankly, all brown people and poor people, frankly. So the gist of Project 2025, it started in 2017, and it is a playbook for extremism to hit on every piece of our everyday life. And what I mean by that is it speaks to taking away money from public schools. It speaks to reducing veterans affairs medicine benefits. It speaks to dismantling Social Security. It speaks to banning all books in public schools that mention the word slavery. And it's very specific in terms of those types of issues. And so when I think about any particular piece of my life, my mom had a stroke a couple of years ago. Well, according to Project 2025, there would be no additional assistance to help her with care for long-term health facilities. And so when we think about our everyday life, I can't think of one piece of it that is not touched by this. Voting rights, for example. One of the things they talk about extensively in it is abortion. They want to terminate make it illegal for any types of abortion under any circumstances. So it is extreme. It is not a guided document that keeps everybody in mind. It is very specific to a group of elite individuals in the United States.
Now, I see on here that one of the bullet points for the agenda is to use public funds to pay for private religious schools, to eliminate Department of Education, to encourage Christian indoctrinations through public schools, and the list goes on and on. Raise retirement age and use of military to break up protections, something similar to what you were saying, some of the same things, and banning Muslims from entering the country, and a whole lot of other stuff. Now, who concocted this? And I know you said the extremists did. How could they have gotten away with this and not so many people know about it?
So if I could start, Diane said something very interesting. She was saying that it kind of started in 2017. If you all remember when a certain person came down those escalators in New York, and one of the things with that beautiful red hat, make America great again. So then a lot of people would say, well, what are you talking about? We don't know about that, you know? So what happened was from day one, they started to dismantle things here in the country. So it just didn't start in 2024, 2023. It's been going on for a long time, but it was slow and it was under the radar with our court system. And look at the judges that we have now. It's everything, and it's going to get worse if we do not have a voice at the ballot box. That's where we can make a difference. We don't need to get in the street and do a lot of tiki torch marching and all of that. Use our vote so that we would know better. So when you look at education, that is a powerful tool. And as Mr. Garrison said, when you go back throughout our history, that was the one thing they did not want the enslaved people to do, is to learn to read, because reading is knowledge. And so we have this document. It's just reading. If you don't read, you don't know. And then you say, well, I like this person, I like that person. But when you see a whole system coming against us, it is time to be very, very vigilant, whether it's our veterans, whether it's our teachers, who it affects all walks of life. So when a person say, make America great again, I don't think they were thinking about me in that comment.
Okay. Okay. All righty then. So will Project 2025
be on the ballot box? Will it have a little box that we can check off for or against, or how will it look on the ballot?
That is an excellent question. And Project 2025 is implemented in every person that will be on your ballot in November. And what I mean by that is it is not in a whole, amendment, right? So it's not an amendment that's up to pass or fail, but in each person that we have an opportunity to vote for or against in November, this document touches it. I'll give you an example. Ms. Minerva mentioned our judges, and we've all seen how from the Supreme Court down to our state Supreme Court, even, our judicial system, from our local judges to our state judges and our county judges, there has been this plan implemented to get conservative judges in office and get what they call Democrats out of office. And I'll tell you, I want you to think 4 years ago, we didn't know if our judges were nonpartisan, right? As well, they should be, if you ask me, right? Because I want judges that are fair and equal when they get into the judge room in a courtroom. However, 4 years ago in the state of North Carolina, they decided to make it a partisan race, whereas our judges have to now identify themselves as being Republican or Democrat. Once that was done, if you look at even our North Carolina Court of Appeals, there are 15 judges on our North Carolina Court of Appeals. There's only one Black woman on our North Carolina Court of Appeals. There are only 3 Democrats on our North Carolina Court of Appeals. This is completely different than what that court looked like in 2016. And one of the most powerful weapons that we have when we have an injustice in our court system is to say, I appeal. So these courts and these judges and who they're putting in office matter. And it is implementing Project 2025, and that's just one example using the courts. So it's not an amendment that will pass or fail, but it is certainly implemented within the individuals that will be on your ballot.
Okay.
When it comes to what I mentioned earlier, the exposure of this program, Ashley, is disheartening. I believe that our judges and our Board of Electors, Board of Education members are probably more important than almost anyone in the political spectrum locally. When they control our education, they control you, and they control those institutions on a majority level. Thank you for what you've said thus far. What are some of the other strategies that Red, White, and Blue has to mobilize people in their communities to get things done other than vote?
That is an excellent question. Well, voting, of course, right now is our number one priority, but more than anything, it's education and empowerment. So the idea is that we help empower communities to really stand up and learn about issues that are of concern to them. And then we surround them and give them the resources that they need. For example, here in Pitt County, probably about 3 years ago now, is when our book ban started. So there was an entourage of extremists who started going to school board meetings here in Pitt County, and they started requesting that our Board of Education ban certain books that had either language about LGBTQ+, or language about slavery, or language about Christianity. So it was a very specific book ban that they were doing. We quickly learned that that was actually a national movement that had infiltrated here in Pitt County. It was not new. And so when we talk about Project 2025 or Red, White, and Blue and how we help, well, we were able to then mobilize mothers or other parents of children in the schools that said, nah, we ain't banning all these books, right? And so now we need to show up. All right, so how do you organize a march? right? How do you get your permits so that you can have a march the right way and not it be interrupted by police, right? And so those are the kinds of things that we do. We want to empower people. So in addition to making sure that we're getting folks to the polls, we also want to make sure that we're empowering communities, because when you empower people, then as these issues continue to happen long after I'm gone, long after whomever, then that's what continues, and that's how we continue to fight. When I look at Project 2025's agenda and the idea of eliminating the Department of Education, I have two children, one in middle school, one in high school, and I can't imagine eliminating the Department of Education or dismantling civil rights and DEI protections. We've seen what that looks like at UNC Chapel Hill. We've seen already this year, we've seen hundreds of Black students and brown students lose their scholarships at UNC because of these DEI protections that have been taken away. So we're in the midst of Project 2025. This is not something that's just beginning. And it's certainly not something that we have the opportunity to wait on, because it's already in motion. And so we need to, at this point, we need to catch up and put the brakes on it as much as possible.
I was definitely floored when I saw a review of Project 2025. I wasn't sure how much was hearsay and what was factual. And that's one of the reasons I'm here this morning. So I'm really learning quite a bit as you guys are solidifying the message. One of the things that really floored me was their goal and objective to put in shadow government over the governmental departments, a shadow education department. But it's not unlike bringing in stakeholders in an organization from the community to get opinions from on how your organization is performing in the community. But similar to that, but extremists coming in, shadowing the professionals, taking positions such as the Department of Education and putting other civilians over them. Also just diluting the authority of, and politicizing a lot of the positions in the government so that they can control them at will. And I was like, okay, this is right in front of our faces. I had a business transaction going on yesterday, and we were counting money, and it was about $8,000 on the table. And there was one guy that was going to transfer the money over to me, and he was actually stealing the money right in front of me. The audacity, as if I was not going to count. And so I did not count in front of him when I saw the sleight of hand, but there were others around me who saw him count and take the money, and they counted, and I would say, they confronted him right away. So I didn't have to. This is being done right in front of us. Amazing. Red, white, and blue. Is there any other offensive tools or defensive tools at this point that you guys have? I'm really liking this.
I will tell you that we have a slideshow, and I've shared it with Ms. Minerva. We have a slideshow that breaks down every issue. That takes maybe 2 to 3 minutes to summarize what these issues are. And one of the things that we're going to do at our meeting on August 29th is to take you directly to the document on the page and then give you a quick little summary as to, these are facts. This is not anybody making anything up. I was a journalist for 7 years. So I take that part of what we do very seriously in terms of fact checking and making sure that things are correct. But this is not a time for us to be shy. One of the things that I like, that I'm excited most about, is how many organizations partnered to make this happen. The idea that our community came together, and I don't know, Ms. Minerva, 72 hours? It was like 72 hours, and there were like 7 different partners and organizations saying, we want in, this is what we can do, this is what we can bring, this is our expertise, and to me, that is the most powerful weapon that we collectively have ever had. And that is, I tell people all the time, I'm people rich, right? And so we as a community are people rich. And when we really put our minds to something and work together, there is no stopping us, no matter what the topic is or the plan. Right. And so for me, the most powerful thing in terms of this session and how we come together is the how on board we all were, and how everybody's nonprofit or other organization or church, the church gave us the building. We had nonprofits that created the flyer. We had other nonprofits that were like, we're going to do the RSVP, and so for me, just seeing the magic of what we can do when we have a collective thought, that that to me was powerful. And it also explained why they do things like Project 2025 to keep us apart.
Did you,
And
you guys
if I
do
could say, piggyback on what Diane was saying. Now, I had asked her about facilitating this program from other opportunities I've worked with her. Didn't realize that her other organization, Red, Wine, and Blue, was already working on that. So that was a beautiful thing. One thing I would say, that when people do not know people in their community, it's a loss. Now, the one thing that I have always tried to do is to know the people in the community. We have to know them. Even with your nonprofits, everybody have their own agenda, but there are things that we have in common that we can come together. We can work together because we want a better, a stronger community. And that's what we did with this event that we have going on the 29th of August. We came together, and you have NAACP, the HBCU, because see, the HBCUs, that's the historically black colleges and university, they get money. And when a certain group do not want those colleges and institutions to thrive, they will start pulling back the money. And I've heard legislators say, well, we don't need that anymore. Why can't they just go to a UNC or a Duke? But, HBCU, when I look at Jesse Jackson, he graduated from North Carolina A&T, my alma mater. When I look at people who have been fighting for years, this is the product. This is how we combat Project 2025. And I wanted to say that with 2025, this thing has been in the making for a very, very long time. There is an organization, it's out there for everybody to see, the Heritage Foundation. They have been working on abortions for 50 years, even that we thought it was settled here in this country. Again, you get the right judges, they can overturn any and everything. So that's why going back with these judges, we got, and all we want, I don't want anyone to just go to DC and say, well, I'm going to represent Minerva. I'm going to do what she said. No, I just want fairness. If you get fair and balanced, you will have a healthy community. So that's what we want. But the way they are stacking the course, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be balanced. And it's just not going to affect African Americans, but it's everybody. I hear people say this is a Christian nation. Well, no, it's not. One thing about America, anybody could come here for freedom to express their religious belief, whether they were Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or whomever. But all of a sudden now we're just going to teach one thing. That's not right. That's the way I look at it. So that's why I'm so happy that all these organizations came together and said, hey, we need to do something about this. We need to be concerned.
And that is why Awesome Radio reached out as well, because we are a media outlet in this community where we live. And I thank God that we are connected to the community, maybe not as well connected as we should be, but we're getting there. Awesome Radio, and also GPAT Public TV. We have teamed on with you, Diane and Minerva, to help get the word out media-wise. So GPAT will be there on August the 29th at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church on August 29th, 6 o'clock. And we will be recording and streaming live. So that's GPAT's part of this. And Awesome Radio part is getting the information out right now live. So we are on our Awesome Radio Facebook page, on the GPAT Facebook page, and also on our YouTube channels. And this is going out on the radio live right now as well, which the video can be shareable at any time and can be viewed right now too. So we're here, we're on your team. We are nonpartisan. Let me repeat that. We are nonpartisan. You may hear others speak about stuff, but the station itself is nonpartisan.
And thank you for
Okay.
that, Akila. And I think that the other strength is that most of the organizations that have partnered for this are also nonpartisan. And the beauty of being nonpartisan is, and I tell people this all the time, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, it is not my job to tell you who to vote for, but it is my job to encourage you to vote. Period, point blank. And so we want you to be involved in the process of decision makers that make decisions for you and your family every day. And it's more important for me to have people actively involved than to try and coerce them one way or the other to agree. One of the things that Ms. Minerva mentioned that I definitely wanted to make sure that we understand, that one of the things in Project 2025 is to ban all contraceptives. Ban all contraceptives. It also wants to restrict our access to STD testing, birth control, IVF. And I want you to think about how those issues affect African-American communities at a higher percentage than most. So when we talk about, the AIDS epidemic, and AIDS is still out there, y'all, HIV is still out there, and Northeastern North Carolina still has one of the highest rates in the country. And so when I think about the idea of something restricting the access to STD testing, then that directly impacts where we live. I never would have thought, my daughter is 15, and I never would have thought that we would have overturned Roe versus Wade. These are real issues that are impacting, our future. So we're looking at an opportunity, a future where our daughters and our sons will have less rights than we had. And that to me is a very scary thought.
How do you, speaking of nonpartisan, do you have, my first part of that question is, do you have people from all different parties in your group? And two, the logistics of it. How in the world are you going to control the narrative? I'm saying that in a positive way. And what your agency is, a mission statement, and what you believe. How can you manage that with no doubt in any movement there are people who oppose what you're doing and they are right amongst you? How do you control the narrative, and how large is your movement? Is this grass seed over here, red, white, and blue, or is it 10 offices wide across the nation? Talk to us.
Okay, that's a great that's a great question. Wine, WINE.
Oh, wow.
So
I was saying red, white, and blue. Look, I've been thinking that
wine.
the whole time.
No, so I'll tell you, no, that's fine. This started right after what was that? Our 45th president took office. So right after our 45th president took office, there was a movement of suburban women in Pennsylvania who said this can never happen again. Right? Because that was a long night. I remember going to sleep thinking Hillary was going to win and waking up to my daughter crying, saying, what just happened? Right? And so when that happened, there was a movement that started in Pennsylvania and it quickly grew. So we are now over 40,000 members in 5 different states, including North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So the idea, Virginia. So the idea is to empower what is referred to as suburban, and to me also rural, right? That's what we're considered, rural, particularly women, but we do have men that are members as well, to really encourage individuals in their community to stand up for the things that are important to them. I don't like to go into a community and tell that community what's important. Now, I happen to be a publisher, so books are important to me. So the banning of books, that was like my agenda. You know what I mean? However, if I go into Elizabeth City and they tell me that our biggest issue is climate protection because we're right off of the ocean and we don't want oil spills, then that's my job now becomes to help them to find out everything they can about what their rights are. And frankly, to help them find individuals that might run for office and change those policies within their communities. So it's all about empowering those individual communities by providing resources that people can make an educated decision for themselves on what's important to them. So it's not my job to tell them what my personal belief is, but it is my job to make sure that they have all of the information so that they can make an educated decision on the individuals that they vote for, who should run for office in their area, the policies and procedures that they would like to see and or overturn, and let them know that they have the resources and the people power to make it happen.
And if I could piggyback off that, Mr. Garrison, the other organization that's involved with this project, first, the National Council for Negro Women, we're out there, been out there for many, many years, advocating for women. And when you advocate for women, you're advocating for families. And when we look at education, our own Mary Clyde Bethune, she was an educator. She wanted to make certain that everybody got a good education, that education is front and foremost, because when you're educated, then you can research and you can do things for yourself. The NAACP is our oldest civil rights organization. They've come on board. And when we're looking, we're not trying to keep anybody away from this document. As we said, it's been out there. We publish information so it's open to any and everybody in the community. We want an informed community. And how they vote, whether it's one party or the next or the third party or any other party, just have the information. That's what is important. So when you look at the different people who've come together, said, we want the community to know what is at stake. That is so important. And then to give that information out, you know, that's just the right thing to do. So it's not to suppress. We don't want to do that. We want it to be open to everybody. And this is a vehicle. And I'm so thankful to Red Wine. I love it. Red Wine and Blue, to National Council for Negro Women, to the NAACP, to the historically Black colleges and university, the Panhellenic, that means my Delta group, Diane's AKA group, and other organizations such as that, because we have a stake. When we have been educated through our universities and so forth, we want to go back and make certain we have that same, we can give the next generation that same opportunity. We want everybody to be educated, because an educated person is a free person, because they would take things to task, whether it's the environment, whether it's, again, school systems, healthcare. Oh yes, that is on the line. So yeah, we got to be concerned, because this is our life.
That's right. And she's right. We have so many organizations that have partnered. We have NOTRA, we have Democracy NC, we have NCNW, of course, we have Red Wine and Blue, we have CAR, the Coalition Against Racism, we have the HBCU Alliance. Like, when I tell you that our people came together and came together quickly, I am so proud of them. And I'll also say this, that this forum is not going to be just me speaking or just Miss Minerva speaking, but the power of it is us having individual experts in our community come to speak on certain topics. So the topics that will be discussed this time for education, we'll have Miss Patty Smith come, and she will, you know, she's been in our education system forever and a day, so she will speak to that. Then we have other individuals that will come and talk about police brutality in the court system and how it is affected by Project 2025. So this is not a lecture. This is not a forum where one person is going to stand up and give you their version of what Project 2025 means. This is a collaborative effort where we have our local experts in their divine places, being able to speak to Project 2025 and what it means in their professions. And that to me is just a wonderful thing. And I will say that one of the powerful tools we have, when we do talk about getting people to the polls, right? Well, Red, Wine, and Blue is all about what we call relational organizing. So the idea is just what we did with this. It is not about one person. It is not about one organization. It is really about empowering us to work with one another. Well, the same can be said for getting to the polls. So how can we ensure that we are really getting people to the polls? Well, one of the tools that we use is a system called Rally. And Rally allows individuals to use their cell phones, something as simple as your cell phone, to put in individuals. We ask that every person put in 5 to 10 individuals that you know. And those people, when they vote, it's going to send you a text message and say, Grandma Tootie voted. And on election day or on the first day of early voting, if Grandma Tootie didn't vote, it's going to send you a text message and say, hey, you need to reach out to Grandma Tootie because she hasn't gone to vote and she might need a ride to the polls. So one of the things we do encourage is relational organizing, and us being able to not track that information for our organization, not give anybody, this is for you. This is for you and your people. It's for you to be set, for you to hold yourself accountable, saying, I am responsible for getting 5 people to the polls. And those 5 people, I'm going to make sure they get to the polls, even if that means me picking them up and taking them. And so we do suggest that individuals find, and there's lots of tools out there. There's different tools with different organizations. I know the Democratic Party has one. I can't remember the name of it, but utilize these resources to help you to hold yourself accountable for making sure that we're getting people to the polls.
Ms. Taylor, I got this. I'm going to step on my platform as a coach. And my expectation to gain knowledge and wisdom. I'm looking at the goal of 2025 is to encourage racial discrimination, mass deportation, and reduce immigration. Insert Christian nationalist ideology into the mainstream. Give unchecked power to the president. Your organization is accusing a certain part of America of it being extreme, racist, and imperialist, and trying to take a nation back to slavery, if you ask me, with the amount of assertive control that you guys are presenting. Your organization is making a big proclamation here, and I want you and Miss Minerva, if you're gonna reassure me and the listeners that you are confirmed, you are solid and assured that this is what is happening, and that you're not just instilling fear in us just to go to the polls, as people accuse the Democrats all the time of fear mongering, and that's the only way they could get Democrats to the poll, or independents or unaffiliates like myself, is to scare them, but not talk about encasing the vote and coming up with an agenda and bargaining with politicians, saying we'll give you our vote if you give us, some of our, or meet our needs. But I want you to confirm and how should I say this? Assure me and the people that's listening, this is not fear mongering, that this 2025, you've done your research, you've done your homework, you've been in there, you've seen it, you've heard it, and this is real life and not a horror movie. Talk to
And wait a minute. And to add to that, can you also validate that former President Donald Trump and his allies are truly behind this, or is it that we're just pushing it on him? And who do we really know who conjured up Project 2025? Just because he said, let's make America great again, just because he said that, is he actually behind Project 2025?
Oh, these are great questions. And y'all, you heard me say I was a journalist, so bring it. Okay. So first of all, this is this is not fear mongering. This is the truth. You don't have to look nationally to see this agenda play out. You can look right at East Carolina University that no longer has a division for equity and inclusion. You can look at the fact that right down the street, we no longer have somewhere for Black students at ECU to go. And they've always done that since 1921. And now all of a sudden they can't do that anymore. The whole office has been dismantled. This is not about fear mongering. This is about looking around you. This is about noticing what has already been put into place. We didn't make up them overturning Roe versus Wade. That's fact. Right? We didn't make up the ban on contraceptives. You can look at right now, there are 2 bills in the House, in North Carolina House of Representatives, to do the very thing. So it is not about us pulling things out of that. We don't have to pull, unfortunately, we don't have to pull stuff out of the air in order to talk about when I think about the promotion of capital punishment, you can look right in North Carolina's capital punishment and see how it's changed in the last 4 years. So these are not condemning single mothers. That's not something we made up. Right? That's something that if you look right now, WIC has been cut. If you look right now, we've had funding coming from, we have an increase in private school vouchers, and we have a decrease in public school funding. These are not things that we had to make up in order to energize this movement. These are things that people should see in their everyday life play out. And unfortunately, we're behind the 8 ball in the fact that we're not predicting things. We're calling out what is. So I will say that in terms of the fear should have been there. The fear should have been there when they overturned Roe versus Wade. The fear should have been there. I mean, for me, it became real when I looked up DEI and saw the ECU right down the street from me no longer had that department. And last year it was full. Right. And so, our very own community person, Toya Jacobs, had to change her job title because we don't acknowledge DEI anymore. And so these are the types of things that are happening right now. So it's calling out what is. It's not about instilling fear. In terms of Project 2025 and how it started, I think I can firmly say that we all know that Donald Trump did not sit and write 944 pages of nothing. In fact, he probably can't write 9 pages or something. So I'm not saying, and neither is our organization saying that this is a Trump plan that he wrote, but did he orchestrate it? Absolutely. If we've learned anything from President Trump's 2016 presidential transition effort, it was quick, it was smooth, and it was intentional. And those plans actually had already been on the books, but that gave them the vehicle and the tool to be able to, if you look at his, I don't know if you all remember, but in his first 30 days, do y'all remember him using that ink pen to undo everything that Obama had done without going through any of the courts, without going through the House or the Senate? He was able to do that. And so this is not fear mongering. This is us saying, this is what happened. These are the facts. Now that you know the facts, I want you to be responsible for making a good decision.
So is it fair to say that if former President Donald J. Trump wins the presidential election, that Project 2025 will be fully implemented?
Yes. And he have said that. He said on day one, but we must realize that in this country, we have systems, whether it's the federal government and everything else. So his group of people, and it's a group that are training folks to step in these positions. Now, I know a lot of people that work for the federal government. They want to change that. And when you look at even the end result, these are people who have spent their life working for the federal government. All of a sudden, they will be out of a job. But you got to have systems in place for everything to work. But I'm going to change the subject just 1 minute. When you think about systems, what is truly important? Now, the president is important, but the president can't do a whole lot. He needs those other systems to get him where he or she, we're going to say she, where she needs to get. But locally, we have to be concerned about our city council, our board of education, our county commissioner, and then take it on up to Raleigh. We have to be concerned about every aspect of our government. And that's not fear mongering. I mean, if you look around, as Diane said, you can see things happening. Things are unraveling because one group or one group of people want, I guess they have this nostalgia for the way it used to be. I don't look at it like that, but they do. But we have to stay vigilant. We have to speak up. And that's what I love about America. America has its faults. But the one thing I like is that people can organize, groups can organize and say, oh, we don't like that. We're going to have to do better. And then things begin to change. And it may not change one cycle, but you got to stay in the game. So our vote, I'll go back to that. Our vote is so important. We have to make certain that we are informed, that we are educated, and we vote our best interest. Now, with the groups that I represent, we do not tell people who to vote for. Don't do that. We want to make sure that they're educated. We want to help them to get registered to vote. We don't want a lot of barriers in the way, but unfortunately, when you get a certain group, you will have barriers. Some people call it voter suppression. You will have that in your way. But going back, as Diane said about red, wine, and blue, I think about the NAACP. We have something called Souls to the Polls. That has been very effective for people to get together and their whole church, they go to the poll and vote. We don't do quite as much of it now because people early vote. I early vote myself, but some people like that traditional, voting experience. But also the souls to the polls is really, really important. So again, if you do not have means to get to that poll, as Diane said with her group, we have people that can take folks to vote, and we don't care who they are as long as they want to vote. If someone, say an independent, call and say, we want to go and vote. I'm not going to vote a certain way, but I still need to go to the poll. Well, we're going to help them get to the poll because that's what they need to do. That's their freedom. So that is so important as we talk about this conversation. We look at everything, but I say it's systems. When you look at whether it's the police, it's healthcare. And I tell you, we lost plenty of people during the pandemic. And one person just turned back a lot of stuff that the former president had put in place regarding COVID. Turn it all back. And that's why we lost so many people during that COVID time. Even that COVID is still here, but we lost a lot of them because they just, you're talking about people in denial or whatever. I don't know. Didn't want to wear masks and so forth. Again, systems. We got to look at system so that we can have an effective life. I don't mean to ramble, but that's what I'm talking about.
We have about 6 more minutes into this conversation. So let's push August 29th. August 29th at 6:00 p.m. at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church on Hooker Road at 6:00 p.m. A panel discussion about Project 2025. How can people get a copy of this 944-page document? Number one, how can someone get in touch with you two? Number two, and what again is to be expected on August 29th, Thursday, 6:00 p.m. at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church, Hooker Road.
Do you want to start, Diane?
Yes, ma'am.
It is on Facebook. If you go to most of the organization that's represented, the flyer is there. There's a QR code where people can register. And if they don't register, they still can come. 6 o'clock, August 29th, Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church at Hooker Road. So they can come, but I'm going to let Diane give her information.
Yes. So we originally had this plan for August 8th. And of course, there was the threat of us being impacted by the storm. So we were unable to do that then. And the partner organizations all decided that it was best for us to postpone it. But we had great registration numbers even for that. So the idea is to make this very concise in an hour and a half's time. We have 2 hours for the whole church, but an hour and a half. So it is a packed agenda. And the idea is that we will summarize, as I mentioned earlier, some of the main key points. And we're also going to take questions from the audience or allow them to ask questions of the experts in those particular areas of education, police, community affairs, health, because we didn't really talk about health a lot today, but we want to talk about, I guess we hit on it when we were talking about the STD testing and things like that. So it's going to be a tight ship. I run a tight ship. If y'all don't know me, then you'll know then. I do run a tight ship. So we are going to use our time as effectively as possible to highlight some of the issues that we talked about. However, more importantly, we don't want to close the door at just this event. And so what we are doing, in addition to partnering with the station, with Awesome Radio, but we're also allowing the individual participants to help us decide what our next session is going to be on, or what they want to talk about on our next session. We know we can't digest 944 pages in an hour and a half. That's why we're being very specific on the 5 topics that we'll talk about next Thursday. However, towards the end of that, we are going to take a poll of those individuals in the room to see what are the other issues that they would like to address at a further session. And we will have some hors d'oeuvres there. We are asking people to register using the QR code that is on the flyer. However, like Ms. Minerva said, we are not going to turn anybody away. And we love the idea of partnering with Awesome Radio and GOTB, GPAT, right? I think I said it wrong, on GPAT, so that individuals who aren't able to come, frankly, can still have access to the information, because at the end of the day, that's what it really is about for us. We will not have, kind of going back to what Mr. Garrison said, we will not have individual candidate information available at this session. We will not have candidates speaking at this session. We will not talk about specific individuals running for office at this session. This session is about informing our communities about Project 2025 and informing them and preparing them to exercise their right to vote in November.
And if I could piggyback again off what Diane said, we will have Democracy NC, which is nonpartisan, to talk about voter registration. We'll have information there. So if individuals have not registered, they can. And if other groups want information, they can take with them and share with their congregation, their organization, or their neighborhood. They will have that information as well.
And they can always contact me. My number is 252-558-4722, or they can email Diane at redwine.blue. And I'll put that in the chat as well. But they can email me, they can call me or text me if they need assistance with registration. But we just want our people to have an opportunity to really ask the questions that they want and to understand what could be complicated, but it's actually isn't, when we think about how it affects our daily life.
Thank you, ladies, for your investment in the community and your studies and your discipline presentation. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much again, ladies, for your agreement to come on Awesome Radio and for having Awesome Radio and GPAT on August 29th to cover this discussion panel. So you've been listening to Awesome Radio 107.5 and 1570 AM, and we want you to continue to listen to us all day, every day, for more information. Thank you, Minerva. Thank you, Diane, for joining us and giving us this wonderful information. This will be posted on our YouTube and Facebook pages throughout this whole thing, talking about Project 2025. You've taught me some things that I did not know, and very well informative information that you've given out. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you the next time right here on Awesome Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Akilah. We'll be in touch to make sure you have everything you need for the session.
Okay.